Ukraine's unique position between Russia and Europe has historically made it a battleground for power struggles. The current war between Russia and Ukraine is the most consequential war in Europe since World War II and can be traced back to Ukraine's role as a borderland between competing spheres of influence and to its status as a former Soviet republic with deep cultural, economic, and political ties to Russia. Historical narratives and issues of identity also play pivotal roles in the current conflict. Ukraine's declaration of independence in 1991 technically marked the end of Russian dominance in the region, but Putin still continues to emphasize the close historical and cultural connections between the Russians and the Ukrainians, arguing that they are essentially one people. Right before he invaded Ukraine, he also claimed that Ukraine had been hijacked by the West and was being run by American-backed neo-Nazis that were holding the people of Ukraine hostage. According to him, Ukrainians would welcome a Russian invasion, while Ukraine's neo-Nazi president would flee. In reality, however, Ukrainians are fighting for the sovereignty of their homeland, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, and the invasion of Ukraine hasn't been well received by anyone, including the people of Russia itself. Putin has angered Russian citizens, businessmen, and oligarchs with an invasion that was driven by nothing more than the desire to maintain and expand Russia's influence over its former Soviet territories. Influence that had visibly receded over time as Ukrainians adopted a distinct national identity and ousted their pro-Russian president in the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was thus an attempt by Putin to reassert Russia's dominance in the region and counterbalance what he perceived to be the encroachment of Western influence. In fact, Russia's tense relationship with NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was also pivotal in driving its aggressive stance towards Ukraine as it saw and continues to see NATO's eastward expansion as a direct threat to its national security and influence in Eastern Europe. Irrespective of Putin's reasons for this needless war, his expectation of an effortless victory, and the fact that Russia's forces are stronger than Ukraine's in terms of numbers, there are several reasons why Putin still stands to lose this war. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mir Media. In today's video, we're going to talk about why Russia will lose the war against Ukraine. The first reason has to do with the fact that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been marked by a series of strategic and geopolitical miscalculations. Putin decided to invade Ukraine because he thought that he could quickly and easily overthrow the Ukrainian government and replace it with a pro-Russian regime. This, however, didn't happen. The war began in February 2022 and has now been going on for well over a year with no end in sight. It is evident that Putin's assumption about a quick victory was disastrously wrong. Ukrainians have shown remarkable resilience in the face of Russian aggression, and their resistance has also generated widespread international support. The second reason has to do with the international pressure and sanctions that Russia has had to face as a result of the war. The war, of course, has had severe economic consequences for both countries. Ukraine's infrastructure, including its power grid, energy sources, and water supply systems, has been devastated with the cost of reparations estimated to be in excess of $113.5 billion. Nevertheless, unlike Russia, Ukraine is receiving continued foreign assistance by Western countries, intent on maintaining the balance of power in the region. While NATO hasn't directly intervened in the conflict, it has provided significant military and financial support to Ukraine in the form of weapons, training, and intelligence sharing, significantly bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities and further strengthening Ukraine's ties with the West, exactly opposite to what Putin would have wanted. Russia, on the other hand, is facing a lot of logistical challenges. It's encountering difficulties in mobilizing and supplying its troops, and is running out of the resources that it needs to continue the war. And as the war continues, these logistical and resource constraints will only become more pronounced, further weakening Russia's position. Russian efforts to control the narrative surrounding the war, both domestically and internationally, have also been unsuccessful, and the international community has remained largely united in its condemnation of Russia's actions, while Western nations are using diplomatic and economic pressure to isolate Russia and undermine its military campaign. Economic sanctions have been imposed on Russia targeting key sectors of the Russian economy, including energy and finance, and have weakened Russia's economy, making it more difficult for the country to sustain its military campaign in Ukraine. The last major reason that Russia will lose the war is probably the most important and has to do with the sheer resilience and determination of the Ukrainian people. Faced with the prospect of foreign occupation, Ukrainians have shown incredible unity. They're protesting against Russian aggression and passionately fighting off the Russian military on the battlefield. They've also formed volunteer militias and civil defense organizations to support the Ukrainian military, and these groups have taken on an increasingly prominent role in the war effort. Civilian volunteers have been picking up weapons and learning to make Molotov cocktails to protect their cities and towns, while a volunteer militia called the Azov Brigade has been involved in heavy combat. Emergency workers and civilian volunteers have also been working hard to rescue people and provide first aid to those injured in the conflict. If you've enjoyed this video so far, please like it and subscribe to our channel. It's free for you to do, but supports our team more than you know. Now back to the video. To sum up, several factors suggest that Russia will ultimately lose this war. These include Russia's geopolitical miscalculations, diminishing military resources and capabilities, international pressure and sanctions, and perhaps most importantly, the resilience and determination of the Ukrainian people. However, the war in Ukraine still serves as a stark reminder of the destructive potential of unresolved historical tensions and competing national narratives. It also serves as a reminder of the high cost and risk associated with war itself. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced, while people around the world have experienced devastating food inflation, and several developing economies have been brought to the brink of collapse because of the impact of the war on global energy and food prices. The war has also exposed the limitations of international institutions and the difficulties in achieving a consensus on the appropriate response to aggression and the protection of sovereignty. It has also underscored the importance of diplomacy, negotiation, and multilateral efforts to prevent and resolve conflicts before they escalate into full-scale war.